Here we go. All right. First things first, some water. Hello. Welcome to this podcast. I don't know what I'm going to be naming it. All I know is that it's my life and all the experiences that I've been going through, all of the challenges that have came my way, and I'd like to just kind of voice them over a video. Maybe you relate, maybe you don't. Maybe this is just a way for you to get to know me better. But ultimately, I wanted to create this podcast to kind of speak on the things that I go through, all the experiences that I have came across, and how they've shaped me, how they've changed me, and how I've been looking at it from my point of view. So without further ado, let's get into the first episode. I do want to draw as I speak. And I also don't want these podcasts to be an hour or too long. I just kind of want them to stay within 20 to 30 minutes. I'm sure some of them will be a little bit longer than others, depending on the topic and if I have people here. And to just kind of get a little more comfortable with the camera, I do want to draw as I go, um, and still talk, still talk about the podcast. I have it all written down how I want to start it, how I want to end it, and the purpose of the podcast. So bear with me as we get started. The first podcast episode, I want it to be about something that I've recently been through, and that is friendships. I feel like I've struggled a lot with friendships recently, and ultimately, friendships mean a lot to me because as a young 24-year-old living on her own, I don't really have a lot of family, and the family that I do have, I don't really talk to. So I consider my friendships my family, my chosen family. So it means a lot to me on who I keep around, and how our friendship, how healthy our friendship is. Before I get into the podcast and drawing and everything, I do want to start off with a couple of affirmations. So there's going to be two affirmations for this one, but I'm sure as I go along with more podcasts, more affirmations will pop up. I want you, whether it means that you pause this or you say them out loud in your head or whatever, out loud to yourself or in your head, either way. The two affirmations I chose for this podcast is I am whole no matter who decides to leave my life. I give myself all the love that I deserve. So those two, repeat them to yourself 5 times, each one of them. And then let's get right into it. You can either pause this video or you could say them as we go. For my drawing today, I had this idea that I had thought about when I was meditating, and I wanted to be like comics. So I wanted to be me talking to either the universe or me talking to my inner child and asking her questions about myself, ultimately things that I know I need to trust myself for. So we're going to get right into it. The title is going to be, are you outgrowing or shedding a relationship in your life? This could be friendships, this could be your loved one, a significant other, it could be anybody really. But I'm relating it to my friendships because that's the challenge that I've been facing. So the shedding part, I don't know if that already exists as a term or not, but I feel like for me, shedding stands for being able to grow through something with someone and still be friends at the end of it. Like shedding a layer. Outgrowing would be more like you and that person's values no longer align. You're on two different paths. So I'm going to read off each bulletin that I have here, the points that I have. And hopefully, as I go, I don't blab a lot about each point, but if I have things to add, I will. So, my first point was I want to share my experiences and my journey. I guess I don't know how that one related, but moving forward, speak on all of the challenges I face and continue to come my way. I love being the person that uplifts. Okay, okay, okay. So, to elaborate a little, I see what I was trying to say here. So to elaborate a little bit more on the bulletin points that I have here is the reason why I wanted to start this podcast. I was just gonna get right into it. I want to share my experiences and my journey. I want to speak on all the challenges that I face and continue to come my way. I love being the person that uplifts. Everyone is on their own journey. So many of you will or will not relate. This is just a way for me to work towards trying to inspire, motivate, and share with the public my vulnerability. I kind of did say that in the beginning, but just to read off the bulletin points that I had created before, that is exactly why this podcast started. I find that self growth podcasts have helped me make better or different decisions in my life. So I'm hoping that with this podcast, maybe you learn something, maybe you take a little something, maybe you create your own point of view from something you heard here. I've instilled different habits through different podcasts that I've listened to, different point of views, looked at things, differently when it comes to certain situations, and just grown. I've grown a lot through a lot of the habits that I've instilled, whether they're little or big, whether it's waking up in the morning and making a cup of coffee and water and meditating and journaling or going to the gym. It could be major, it can be minor. It's just shaped my life a lot. And I was very scared to start this because I don't I don't know, like it's this like barrier of like nerves and like what are people gonna think? But we're way past that now. We're like, who cares? Who cares who listens? Who cares what people think? You're doing this for you. I'm ultimately doing this for me. So, um, maybe sharing my journey through these 10 to 20, 30-minute videos will help someone or give them a different perspective on a certain situation that you might be going through. Okay, so back to the outgrowing or shedding. I'm gonna grab my phone because I also wrote notes down there. So, for outgrowing or shedding a friend, I came across a couple of situations with friends in the past couple of months where some of us made it through, some of us just chose to go our own ways. And it hurts when you meet somebody and you feel close to them, you feel like you've grown so much with them, but then ultimately something happens where you guys both fight, or there's a situation that brings you to a sour moment that either makes you both fight more for the friendship or lets this is where we stand and this is where I'm gonna leave off. The one thing that I wanted to point out for the shedding part, I want to add on and say it may feel like it's an outgrowing, but it's not. It's more like peeling a layer off that you two can come out of, still being in each other's lives, and now introducing a new level of a foundation you've both built. There's been instances where I, the person that I'm talking to, the people that I hang around, sometimes it can get very sour in the sense where some of the things that they may say just don't really align with how I feel or how I treat my friends. And one of those things is I don't like talking about people when they're not in the room. And it's happened. Don't get me wrong, it's still happened. But then I catch myself and it feels wrong because both of those people who aren't in the room or the person that is talking about them and the person that isn't, that both mean a lot to me. Um, I can't like there's a I don't know, like there's just something where it's like I want to respect what you're saying, but I don't respect it because the other person we're talking about also means a lot to me. So then that's when I step in and I try to stop things and I try to like voice out how I feel, but sometimes it doesn't come off the right way. Sometimes what I'm trying to do might be right, but it's not coming off the right way. And I guess there is no right way of saying things. You know what I'm trying to say is like I'm trying to be a better version of myself for my friends, for my family, for my significant other. And some things might not come off right. I'm learning that. But that's where you shed that friendship, that layer of that friendship where it's like, even though I might not come off the right way, I hope that you can understand just a little bit to where we can both sit down and talk about it and maybe move past it. And if we can't, then let's still sit down and talk about it and move our own ways, being civil, being cordial. Some instances where I've had that happen, it's went so sour and it really makes me question the kind of people I attract, and it hurts because that's not who I want to be. That's not the kind of friendship that I want to attract. I don't want people who are going to give up. I don't want people who are going to victimize. I don't want people who are going to not want to take the responsibility to also take fault, even if it's not your fault. You know, the bad relationships in your life only have one thing in common. And I learned this from a book I just finished reading. All your bad relationships have you in common. It might not be you who does it. It might not be your fault all the time, but just take responsibility as if it was your fault. What did you learn? What did you take from it? How could you be different? That's one thing that I've instilled in my head, in my in the way I move. What did I learn? What did I take? How can I be different? It is important to share who you are or growing into and the beliefs you have instilled in this version of yourself that you are learning to love and become. If they understand and helps them also grow, then you are ultimately shedding them. You're not losing their friendship, you're just shedding that layer. You're teaching them something about themselves that they might not have even been aware of, you know? I went through this situation with my friend, my one of my best friends, where we were having an issue in regards to her being a little selfish and hurting in the process of her being selfish, she was hurting my feelings because I was doing things to protect her feelings but hurting mine, and I ended up losing in the situations that we kept getting ourselves into. And it just took the second time for me to put my foot down and say, listen, this is how you're acting. I don't like it. Are we outgrowing each other or are we shedding each other? This friendship of, that we've, left behind. We have to leave this behind, this selfishness. If you're doing something for me, if you're doing something that involves an event for me, then you have to do it for me. You're not doing it for yourself. You're not these people who are asking, like, oh, who's going? Oh, I don't want to go because so and so are going. Then you're not doing it for me, you're doing it for yourself. You're being selfish, and I don't like that. I'm the kind of friend that likes to bring everybody together, and if that's not the kind of friend that you are, then maybe our values don't align. Then maybe we do outgrow each other. But we ultimately made it through. We talked about it, and it was a tough conversation to have because it felt like we were outgrowing each other. But it took her listening to me that day and then telling me how she felt for me to kind of set the tone and say, well, this is how I feel. And maybe we agree, maybe we disagree, but I still have love for you. If we can't move past this, if you can't find a way for you to say, hey, I'm going to go to this event because even though I might feel uncomfortable or I might not want to get to know your other friends, I will still do this for you because I know you're my friend and I'm going there for you. I know you want me there. That's kind of like the level of respect that I would like because I do that for my friends. And I'm trying to find that kind of tribe, looking for the people that are going to be willing to do that for me because I would do it for them. Um, but yeah, we ultimately made it. And I hope that one day she can come on this podcast and we can talk about it because I feel like it set the tone for my friendships as well. It let me know that we can have an adult conversation and be able to sit down with ourselves and not necessarily be judgy, but constructively criticize the things that we feel are hurting our feelings about what we do to each other or how we portray, certain things. When should you begin to question your connections with people? I feel When you start to see a pattern that your conversations are mainly focused on the past, time to talk to them. They should not be focused on the past. All your conversations with your friends should be uplifting, should be positive, should be about the future, should be about how are we bettering ourselves. All positive things, all great connections are formed through growth. How are we growing? How are we like teaching each other something new? How are we uplifting each other? So if you're talking about the past, if that's mainly the topic of conversation when you guys get together, it's time to think about whether this friendship is an outgrowing type of friendship or are you shedding this friend? Talking and laughing about others and their life decisions. Stop talking about other people. That still happens to me. I go to friendships, like I go to my gatherings with friends and I still catch our conversations drifting off to other people's lives and what they're doing, and it bothers me. Like even if in the moment I don't say anything, it bothers me to just be in a room talking to people who I love, who I have great laughs with, but we ultimately talk about other people, and it makes me drift away a little bit. I'm bad at pointing things out right away or even confronting them because not everybody, I don't know them as well as I know my best friend. I don't hang out with them as much as I hang out with my best friends. But it's a level of comfort where like I don't know whether they're going to take this lightly and be like, "You know what? You're right. We shouldn't talk about these people," or are they going to be like, "Girl, but look at you talking with us," or like laughing with us, or and it's like, yeah, but I don't want to. I just kind of like drift away a little bit because I feel like reading their energy, I feel like they wouldn't take it lightly. Maybe that's wrong on my part. That's something I'm learning because it's also happened to me in a different situation where I feel like I get the wrong vibe off of somebody, and just based on the times that we've hung out, I'm like, if I say something constructively criticizing this person, are they going to take it lightly or am I going to come off as a rude person? And I say this because I had literally a best friend that we hung out for 8 months straight, and we had one situation that was very sour and she blew up, and I wish it hadn't went that way because then it led me to blow up, and that's one thing I don't ever want to do. I don't ever want to blow up on anybody because they emotionally get me so worked up based on how they're feeling. So I try to like just take a step back, read the person a little bit. Are they going to take this lightly or not? If not, just step back and just let them be. You and her don't align, or you're not on the same wavelength, but you can still keep them as an acquaintance. And that's another point of this podcast that I wanted to make is that you should have tiers of where you label your friends. So there's acquaintances, there's friendships. This is how I label them: acquaintances, friendships, and then family. My acquaintances, I see them here once in a while. We catch up on small things. I hate small talk, but it's kind of like small talk. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Doing great. Catching up on certain like little things that we might have left off on from the last time we hung out or seen each other, or even things that we see on social media. Oh, I saw that you joined a new team for lacrosse or whatever the case is. Then there's friends that you see consistently, maybe like coworkers that you made friendships with that you go out outside of work, and those could be your friends. You tell certain things to them, and you have great connections. You go out and have drinks here and there, and then you have your family. My family would be people who I see on a daily, who I text on a daily, or text for the most part, see for the most part, hang out for the most part with them, celebrate birthdays, all of these things that feel like family. Um, this way, it's like, okay, if I'm seeing this the way this person is with me and I'm catching the wrong vibe, or it feels like they're not very fond of my happiness, or they're coming off like they're a little jealous or a little whatever the case may be that feels a little negative, that's a friend, or that might be an acquaintance. If I can have a sit down conversation with somebody who I have already shown love to and show up for and make time for and celebrate birthdays with, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be constructively criticizing the situation. I'm gonna tell you how I feel and hope that we can make it out, because that is what friendship is. You have to have faith in this friendship in such an uncertain future, in such an uncertain world. We have to be able to make it out. We can't give up on each other. Like, that is what family is. You don't give up on each other. Even when you fight and you don't talk to your family for 2 3 days, you don't give up. You come back to each other eventually. In this case, I don't want to go three days without talking about certain shit and then pretending like it didn't happen. I want to talk about it, and I want to be able to get through it and be able to come out of it learning something new about each other and being able to be there for each other in such different ways, and understanding that we're only here to grow. And I want you to keep me accountable, and I want me to keep you accountable. Another point: if you're having a hard time sparking new conversations that aren't based on other people's lives, on your past, having awkward silence, making zero effort to show you they are present in your life, there's some people who want to be your family, but ultimately they're just kind of around you when you're partying, or they're only kind of around here and there. And don't get me wrong, everyone has their lives, everybody has shit to do. But again, for me, if you're my family, I'm checking up on you. I Most of my life I've had my mom there, and I've always just kind of considered my mom and my brother my family. And now that I'm living alone, and I've been alone for a little while, over a year and a half, 2 years, almost 2 years. Yeah, almost 2 years. No, 2 years. It's made me want to always just be there for the people that I love. So I want that same energy reciprocated. I want to be able to know that you're here for me, I'm here for you. You need me, I'm going to be there. I need you, you're going to be here. I don't want half assed friendships. That's ultimately what I mean. Of course, everyone has their life going on. Of course, everyone has their own relationships. But don't forget about your friends. I That's one thing for me. I don't like when people forget about me. And maybe it's passed down through the things that I went through, that it's like, oh, I'm afraid of like losing more people. But I'm not afraid of losing people. It's just, show me that you're here, and show me that you're present, and show me that you care as much as I care about you, because I will go out of my way for you. I will open up my doors to celebrate your birthday. I will go out of my way to celebrate your birthday somewhere else. If you need me, if something happens to you, I will be there. So I want to make sure that you're also going to do the same for me, that same love and respect is going to be reciprocated. Another thing you should start questioning your friendships about is if you're not helping each other grow, and you're only hanging out to smoke and do absolutely nothing, or to drink, not keeping you accountable for your actions that hurt your feelings, and just allowing them to be this negative person around you. um all of these things, if you can't be yourself, if all you do is smoke or drink, and you're not teaching somebody something else, or like me and my friends, we smoke, we drink, but we also come together, and while we are smoking, we're talking about each other's situations, our problems, how can we help each other with some sort of advice about what's going on. We want to, create our vision boards and have a glass of wine. Like, it should be positive. As long as you're smoking, let something positive also be there. And don't get me wrong, I smoke a lot, less now, but I smoked a lot before, and I realized, like, it just tires me out. It makes me want to just knock out. It makes me want to eat a lot. It makes me want to sit down and watch Netflix. And I lose all motivation. I lose all inspiration. So I don't want my friendships to be all about that. I need my friendships to bring something more than just bud or a bottle of Casamigos to the table. Another thing, if you can't have open, constructive communication, that may indicate that they aren't in your self development level yet. So, somebody who you love and consider family should always be willing to hear you out, to listen to what you have to say, should not invalidate your feelings. Um, It's happened to me several times, and you grow from it. I mean, I've learned a lot from the constructive communication that I've had with certain friends, whether it went sour or didn't, whether I lost them or didn't. It's taught me, okay, this person and I weren't capable of growing from this. This is ultimately where it stopped. They're going to learn at their own pace. They're still going on their own journey. Eventually, they will get to a point where they're going to be like tired of losing people, or tired of, you know, having to argue and just like not have a good sit down conversation where it's like, oh my God, like, can we please make it out of this? Where can we agree to disagree if that's what it takes? I don't want to lose you. I love you. You're a great friend. Um, but yeah, if you can't have constructive communication with someone and seek a way out, a solution out of the mess that you have gotten yourself into, then you allow this dark bubble of negative, empty, fucked up, messy feelings just take over. And that's not where the story should end. If you have had such a great relationship with someone, it should mean so much more than just that situation. Let whatever, if that situation goes sour after having a hard conversation during a very messy situation, um let them be. They are still on their own path. They're learning at their own pace. You've just outgrown them. Categorize your connections, like I was saying. Put them in the right places in your life to avoid being hurt by them or hurting yourself and your growth and the process you're taking to get there. And then, to fully end this episode, I just want to put out there that as a reminder, it is so important to never, never, ever invalidate somebody's feelings. The way they feel, whether they come off horrible to you or not, that is just how they are. That's not how they are, but that is the perception that they have of the situation. That is how they feel, and don't ever invalidate somebody's feelings. They are learning and growing at their own pace the same way you are. And do your best to communicate your feelings and hope that they can understand. But if they don't, then you still, as the mature person in the situation, if they're ranting and being assholes to you or treating you like shit, just let it be. That's one thing that I've taken from my sour situations. Let it be. Let them grow. Let them experience more friendships, more like sour experiences as the ones that you were put through with them, and eventually it will click for them the same way it has clicked for you, no matter how they react to what you say. Understand they are looking at it from their point of view and not yours. You can only explain it in the best way you can, and if there's no way to agree, then agree to disagree and ask yourself at the end of the conversation where they fit best in your life. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you can't love or care for them. If I outgrow a friend today, I don't lose any less respect, love, or care for them unless you treat me like shit. Unless you make me feel like shit, then I don't think about you at all. I just move forward. I brush it off my back and that's it. But if we ended on a great note and we just couldn't make it out, I still respect you. I still love you and I still care about you, and I hope you're doing great in life. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you can't love or care for them or do it less. It's just a matter of where you place them in your life, where your energy is still fueled and not drained or wanting to please them. And that is it for this podcast. I want to say for my ending, I wrote here, thank you for making it all the way to the end. At the end of this podcast and every podcast that I create, I want to say three things that I am grateful, and I hope you sit down after this video and share with yourself three things that you are grateful. So, one being the friends that feel like family, the friends that are still here. I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that we've made it past very, very sticky situations and have not allowed that darkness to kind of invade our friendship and let that be the ending. I am also grateful for a beautiful day. Like, I love the scenery right here. It feels so peaceful. And I am grateful for this step that I took. I know this podcast was probably a little bit all over the place for today. I'm a little nervous and I'm still getting used to the whole camera thing and the microphone. but I'm just glad I did it. I am so grateful that I stepped into this vulnerability and shared with you a little something that has lingered around for me and has been teaching me so much. Every day I'm learning something new about myself. And one of the experiences that have brought me to make this podcast was outgrowing a friendship. I was just journaling one day and I was like, you know what? Me in this situation I'm going through with friends is consistent and I needed to stop. Um, and I feel like other people probably are going through things like this, outgrowing friends, shedding friendships, um, and growing into an adult friendship, more of like leaving that adolescent friendship behind of like, oh my god, did you hear what she said about so and so, like leaving all these little negative things behind that I call adolescent friendships, growing into an adulthood friendship where it's like we're keeping each other accountable, we're having constructive communication about our feelings, we're helping each other grow, we're doing things that are ultimately helping us be better people individually and together. um and that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for me, at least. Being on my own and being alone, and just working through a lot of self growth, things that I feel were holding me back before. It's taught me so much that it's like, I want to help others grow. I want to be around people who help me grow. And I don't want to feel hurt over friendships that either talk about other people, make me feel like shit, or don't bring anything to the table but a bottle of Casamigos and drugs. Like, I had very toxic friendships in the past, and although they were great in the moment, they felt so good. Looking back, I was like, damn, I was waking up mad late, didn't have a routine, didn't have goals. Yes, me and this person might have had great conversations over a blunt. Maybe we did lots of things that involved great memories, went to the gym, but ultimately it was still a little toxic. I was still very attached to these toxic friends, or toxic relationships with these friends. I don't think they were toxic people themselves. I think our relationship, our friendship was toxic. And being on my own now and ultimately going through all these toxic, messy situations with friends was what led me to say, you know what? I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to hurt myself. I need to have standards. I need to have boundaries. I need to have limitations. And everybody who I allow in my space needs to match my energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today, for listening to my first podcast. I don't know the name of this. I was supposed to draw, and clearly I just got so into the conversation that it made me realize, you know what? You don't have to avoid the camera by drawing. I will work on that drawing though, because it was very, I don't know, very open in my head of how I wanted that drawing to look like. So maybe I'll post it later on somewhere on my Butterfly in the Bull account. Thank you again for being here, and hopefully, you can take something good from this podcast or give me feedback about what you think about it. Maybe it doesn't even resonate, but at least you got to hear a little bit more about myself, how I think, how I feel. And I hope you have a beautiful Tuesday and enjoy the rest of your day.